My husband's friend visited the house drunk when my husband was at work. I couldn't believe I lost myself and I lost his feelings. I'm sitting here in my little kitchen, the one with the faded sunflower curtains and the chipped mug I've had since the kids were young, and I don't even know why I feel the need to say this out loud. Maybe it's the silence these days, maybe it's guilt, or maybe I just miss the way things used to be. You ever have a story that you can't tell your family, can't tell your friends, but it lives in you like a fire that refuses to die down? That's this story. It happened on a Thursday. Funny how the days that change your life never give you any warning. It was just another ordinary morning. I made my husband his usual thermos of coffee, kissed his cheek like always, and watched him drive off in his old pickup toward the construction site. We'd been married 34 years. That kind of love settles into the bones. It's safe. It's dependable. Or so I thought. The house was quiet once he left. I remember humming while I folded laundry, the TV playing an old rerun of The Golden Girls in the background. I had plans to bake banana bread. That's the kind of day it was supposed to be. But before I even got the eggs out, I heard a knock on the door. Loud. Too loud for 10 in the morning. I opened it, and there he was, Paul. Paul was my husband's friend from way back, maybe 40 years. They'd worked together on a few jobs, hunted deer in the fall, even tried building a fishing boat together once, though it never floated quite right. I never paid much mind to Paul. He was always around, always telling stories at our kitchen table, making me laugh more than I should have. You know the type, silver-streaked hair, deep laugh lines, and eyes that saw more than you wanted them to. But this time was different. He was drunk. I could smell it, whiskey, maybe something stronger, thick in the air around him. His shirt was half-buttoned, and he leaned against the doorframe like he wasn't sure if he was standing or falling. My first instinct was worry. He looked tired, not just from drink but from life. Paul? I said, my voice caught between concern and disbelief. What are you doing here? He looked at me with those tired, stormy eyes and tried to smile. Didn't know where else to go. I should have shut the door. Should have called my husband. Should have sent him packing with a cup of black coffee and a firm goodbye. But instead, I stepped aside and let him in. It's strange how quickly comfort can turn into tension. Paul slumped into the chair at our kitchen table like he belonged there, his fingers dragging slowly along the wooden surface, tracing memories into the grain. I poured him water, then coffee, then water again. He barely touched either. He said, his voice thick and low, I always liked this kitchen. I smiled politely, uneasy. It's nothing fancy. Just home. He nodded, his eyes holding mine just a little too long. That's exactly why I liked it. Something in me stirred then, not attraction, not yet. Just attention. A feeling I hadn't felt in years. Like I was being seen, not just passed by. We talked. About nothing. About everything. About the years gone by and how they stole things without asking. He said his wife had left him 2 years ago, and he hadn't been the same since. Said he didn't sleep through the night anymore. Said the only thing that still felt real was the sound of someone laughing in a kitchen like this, and I laughed. God help me, I laughed. He had that way about him, a crooked grin, a wink that made you forget yourself for half a second. You've still got that laugh, he said, eyes narrowing like he was studying a painting. I used to hear it when I came by. Used to think it was the best sound in this whole damn house. I don't know what possessed me to blush. Me, a grown woman with grown children. But I felt it bloom in my cheeks, and I hated that he noticed. You're drunk, I said, trying to regain some dignity. You shouldn't be saying things like that. He didn't flinch. Maybe. But that doesn't make it untrue. Silence stretched between us then. I turned away, suddenly fascinated by the bananas I'd forgotten on the counter. I felt his eyes on me, not leering, just watching. I should go, he muttered. No, you shouldn't, I said too quickly. You're in no state to drive. He chuckled. So what then? You gonna babysit me? I turned, arms crossed, pretending to be stern. I might. Somebody has to. And then, a look. Just a second. His eyes locked with mine, and something passed between us I couldn't explain. Not lust, not yet. Just heat. Familiar and foreign all at once. Like recognizing a melody you haven't heard in decades. I told myself I was just being kind. I made him a sandwich. Sat with him while he ate. The way he looked at me over that plate, soft, slow, grateful, made my heart race in ways it hadn't in years. I felt young. Foolish. Alive. We talked more. About regrets. About love. About what we settle for when we're too tired to dream. Does he make you laugh? Paul asked suddenly, his voice gentle. I knew who he meant. I looked down at my hands. Not the way he used to. Paul nodded, his expression unreadable. That's a shame. Hours passed. The sun shifted through the kitchen window, casting golden light on the floor. Paul was sobering up slowly. I could tell. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and his voice dropped lower. You know, I never told anyone this, he said, but there were times I wished it was me sitting across from you at dinner. My heart stopped. Paul, he held up a hand. I know it's wrong. You're married. He's my friend. But I've carried this for so long, and maybe it's just the whiskey talking, but if I didn't say it now, I never would. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know what I felt. Anger. Flattery. Guilt. I stood up, suddenly needing space. You should lie down. You can stay in the guest room. He stood too, slowly. Our eyes met again. And that's when it happened. He stepped forward, too close, his hand brushing my arm. Just a whisper of touch, but it burned. You're a beautiful woman, Ellen, he said quietly. You always were. And I froze. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just let the silence close in around us. Because in that moment, I realized something I didn't want to admit. I missed being noticed. I didn't touch him back. I didn't lean in. But I didn't pull away, either. Later that night, after he fell asleep in the guest room, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the picture on my nightstand, me and my husband, younger, brighter, before the years dulled us down. I felt like a traitor. Not for what had happened, but for what almost had, and that's where everything began to change. The next morning, Paul was gone. Left a note on the kitchen table that simply said, "Thank you for the kindness. I won't forget it." But I did forget, or tried to. I tucked the moment away like an old photograph. But secrets have a way of showing themselves, even when you swear you've buried them deep. Because what I didn't know then, what I couldn't have guessed, was that my husband had come home early the day before, and he saw everything. It's strange, isn't it? How something so small, a glance, a whispered comment, the brush of a hand, can change the entire shape of your life. Like one loose thread that, once pulled, unravels the whole sweater. And there I was, standing in the middle of my life with nothing but unraveling in my hands. It's been 3 months now since that day. 3 months of quiet dinners and forced smiles. 3 months of walking on the eggshells of forgiveness. Some days I think we're healing. Other days, it feels like we're just rearranging the pieces so they look less broken from the outside. This morning, I poured my coffee like usual. My husband was already outside, sanding the porch rail he's been promising to fix for 2 years. He's been doing that a lot lately, fixing things. As if tightening a hinge or replacing a board might patch something deeper. I watch him sometimes, through the window, and wonder if he's really doing it for the house, or for me. I wish I could tell you the story ended there. That we cried it out, held hands, made a fresh start, but life isn't a Hallmark movie. It was a Thursday again. Funny, isn't it? Thursdays always seem to find me in the middle of things I can't undo. I was flipping through old photo albums, the thick kind with the plastic sleeves and pages that smell like cardboard and time. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. Just trying to remember who we used to be. Then the doorbell rang. My heart dropped before I even made it to the hallway. Somehow, I knew it was him. Paul. I opened the door slowly. And there he was, standing in the same place he had that morning, except this time, he was sober. Sober and tired and carrying an envelope in his hand. "Ellen," he said, his voice soft. "I know I shouldn't be here. You're right. You shouldn't." He nodded. "I just need 5 minutes." I didn't want to let him in. I truly didn't. But I did. We stood in the living room, me with my arms crossed, him with that envelope like it weighed 100 pounds. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he started, not meeting my eyes. "About that day. About what I said. About how I made you feel. I didn't come here to stir it all up again. I came to make it right. There's no making it right, Paul, I said. You don't get to say things. Or look at someone the way you did. I know I don't. But I also know I'm not the only one who felt something that day. I looked away. My throat tightened. He held the envelope out to me. It's a letter. I wrote it the day after I left your house. I didn't send it because I didn't want to mess up your life more than I already had. But I'm giving it to you now because I can't carry it around anymore. I didn't take it. Not right away. What's in it? Everything I wish I'd never said. And everything I never said out loud. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I reached out, took it gently from his hand, and set it down on the console table behind me. Paul took a step back, like that small act gave him permission to leave. I'm sorry, he said again. For everything. And then he turned and walked out the door. This time, I didn't watch him go. The envelope sat there for 3 days before I opened it. I read it late at night, after my husband had gone to bed. The letter wasn't long, barely a page. But it hit harder than I expected. He wrote about seeing me through the years. About how every time he came by, he noticed how I filled the space with light, even when I looked tired. He said he wasn't trying to take me from my husband, that he just wanted, for one brief moment, to be near something that still felt whole. But the last line was the one that cracked me wide open. If I made you feel seen, it's only because I was looking. But the man you married, he's been looking at you for a lifetime. Don't forget that. I folded the letter and placed it inside a book on the shelf. Then I went to the bedroom and watched my husband sleep, his back turned to me, his breathing deep and even, and I cried not because of Paul, but because of how long it had taken me to see the man right in front of me. The next morning, I got up early, made coffee, cooked breakfast. I even put on lipstick, the shade he used to say made me look like I'd just come in from the cold. He came into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. You okay? He asked. I am, I said. He sat down at the table, and I poured his coffee. I hesitated for a moment, then reached across the table and placed my hand over his. He looked down at our hands, then up at me. His eyes were tired, unsure. I want to try, I said. Try what? To find us again. He was quiet. Then he squeezed my hand. I never stopped looking, he said. We didn't talk about Paul after that. Not directly. But we both knew the ghost of that moment would always be there, lingering at the edges of our marriage like a crack in a foundation, not wide enough to tear us apart, but deep enough to make us cautious. We started doing things differently. Little things. He leaves me notes now, scribbled on napkins or post-its. I leave his favorite candy bar on his dashboard when he's had a long day. We started dancing in the kitchen again, slow and silly, to songs we can barely remember, and sometimes, when I catch him looking at me, really looking, I don't feel invisible anymore. I tell you all this not because I'm proud. Lord knows, I'm not. But because maybe, just maybe, someone out there is sitting in the silence of their own marriage, wondering if it's too late. It's not, but you have to choose each other. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially then, because the second you stop choosing, someone else might. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who could lose her marriage without ever taking off a ring, but I did. And now, sitting here in this old blue armchair by the window, the same chair where I used to rock my babies to sleep, the same chair where I folded laundry and talked to my mother on the phone for hours, I'm finally ready to tell the last part of the story. Not because I want to, but because it deserves to be finished. People assume a marriage breaks with some kind of grand event, an affair, a lie, a dramatic betrayal. But most of the time, it's slower than that. It's a drip, not a flood. One missed conversation. One resentful glance. One feeling ignored that never quite goes away. Until suddenly, you're not partners anymore, you're two people sitting on opposite ends of the same couch, wondering who speaks first, and then, sometimes, someone else shows up, not to steal your heart, but to remind you still have one. That's what Paul did. But this story isn't about Paul anymore. Not really. This story is about what comes after. What happens when the dust settles and you're left standing in the ruins of the life you built, holding hands with a man who used to be your everything, now wondering if you can ever be something again. It was a Tuesday when the second wave came. My husband and I had started doing better, or at least we told ourselves that. More dinners together, more effort, less silence. But there's a difference between repair and restoration. We were fixing things, Sure, but we hadn't yet healed. I was at the grocery store when I saw her. A woman I hadn't seen in over 15 years. Joanna Thomas. She used to be in our old church group, before we drifted apart. She looked exactly the same: red lipstick, gold earrings, eyes sharp as ever. And right beside her, standing a bit awkwardly by the shopping cart, was Paul. I stopped mid-aisle. Frozen. Like seeing a ghost that still remembered your secrets. Joanna saw me first. She gave me that smile, too wide, too sweet, the kind that made me brace myself. Well, she said. Ellen Parker. Joanna, I managed. It's been a long time. She gestured to Paul. You two know each other, right? Paul's been helping my brother with the new flooring in the lake house. He smiled faintly at me. That same small, tired smile I remembered too well. Hi, Ellen. I nodded. Paul. The air was thick. Tense. I didn't know you two were friendly, Joanna added, tone just on the edge of teasing. Paul cleared his throat. It was a while back. Just stopped by to say hello one day. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I hope he didn't overstay his welcome, Joanna said with a little laugh. I smiled tightly. It was a short visit. She tilted her head, watching me too closely. You know, Ellen, you always seemed so proper. Not the kind to let strange men in the house while your husband was gone. I felt my stomach drop. My hands clenched around the cart handle. Paul shifted uncomfortably. Joanna, he said firmly. That's enough. But the damage was done. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was loud enough. I felt eyes from the aisle behind me. People pretend not to listen, but in small towns, stories move faster than truth. I got home that afternoon and locked the front door behind me. I sank onto the kitchen stool and stared at the banana hook, empty now, but still hanging. Like me, I suppose. Still there, even when the fruit is long gone. When my husband got home, I didn't wait. I saw Paul today, I said. His shoulders stiffened, but he kept taking off his boots. And Joanna Thomas, I added. She knows. Or thinks she does. He didn't look at me. I don't care what she knows, he said quietly. Let people talk. They always do. But I cared. God, I cared, because now it wasn't just our marriage that had cracks. It was our reputation. Our dignity. And in a small town, you lose that. You lose everything. We didn't go to church the next Sunday. Or the one after that. And my phone rang less. Friends I'd known for 20 years suddenly had less time. Less warmth. Less room for a woman who'd made a mistake. Even if it was a quiet 1.1 afternoon, I caught my husband out in the shed, throwing away old picture frames. Nothing important. Just frames. Empty ones. But the gesture spoke volumes. You mad at me? I asked. He didn't answer right away. I'm mad at both of us, he said. For letting things get so far we stopped being us. I sat beside him on the workbench, staring at the wood shavings on the floor. I didn't mean to make you feel invisible, he said, voice low. I thought you were fine. You didn't say anything. I didn't know how, I whispered. I didn't even realize I was lonely. Not until someone saw it. He looked at me then, really looked. I see it now, he said. And I hate that it took losing something to remember what I had. We sat there for a long time. No yelling. No tears. Just two people finally facing the quiet they'd built between them weeks past. The gossip faded, as gossip always does when someone else becomes more interesting. People moved on. But we didn't. Not yet. Then, one night, I came home from the store and found something sitting on the kitchen table. An envelope. No name. Just the old sunflower print on the back from the stationery I kept in the top drawer. Inside was a letter from my husband. Ellen, I don't know if I ever told you this, but the first time I saw you, you were singing to yourself in the garden behind your parents' house. You had dirt on your knees and sweat on your brow, and I remember thinking, she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I stopped saying it. That's on me. I stopped noticing out loud. And if that opened the door for someone else to step in, I'll carry that too. But if you're still here, still choosing me, then I'll spend the rest of my days learning how to love you better. Not just quietly, but loudly. Like I should have been all along. I sat there with that letter in my hands, and I wept. Not because of Paul. Not because of what might have been, but because I knew then, I had been lost. But I was ready to come home, not to the house. Not to the town. But to us. It's been a year since all of this happened. We're better now. Not perfect, but real. And that counts for something. We go dancing once a month at the VFW. We take turns picking the song. We still argue about the thermostat and forget to buy milk. But we don't forget to see each other anymore. And that's what I want you to know. If you've lost yourself, if you're in that place where the quiet feels unbearable, speak. Even if your voice shakes. Tell the truth. Even if it's messy, because sometimes, love doesn't disappear. It just forgets how to speak, and when it finds its voice again, it can still save you.